Now my bonus tip, because I have a bonus tip for you, and let me tell you, this will change the way you meal plan. Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about another way you can organize and plan your life. I don't know about you, but meal planning is the bane of my existence, and it can be such a huge source of frustration. It's one of those things you know you need to get done, but it's just bringing yourself to do it can be hard sometimes. So today I'm going to go through some of my tips and tricks for how to create a meal planning system that you only have to invent once, and then you can just come back, plug and chug, and you don't really have to think about meal planning as much as you used to. So you're welcome in advance for that. So my system for you today is going to be about 10 steps, and they're pretty simple steps, but I like to break everything down into really small steps. That way it feels like I can get momentum to do a lot more than sometimes just meal planning can seem daunting. So let's break it down little by little and tackle it one piece at a time. So one of the biggest things with meal planning that makes it so much easier is if you set an intention or you have a plan or a goal, something that can give you some direction in planning your meals. So one of the first things maybe, is there a dietary element that you want to incorporate? Or is there a dietary restriction that you want to put on your meals for that week? A big goal for me this year, this is one of my top goals, is to learn to like fish more, because I never really had a lot of seafood growing up, and it's something I'm not very comfortable with, but it's so good for you. And so I just want to be able to incorporate it into my diet. So I have been looking into and finding Pinterest recipes for how to make fish. So one thing that I am trying to do with my meal planning is think, okay, how can I incorporate fish into my meals this week? So that's one way that you could set a goal. Another thing with setting parameters for your meal planning is to think about your budget, because that will definitely dictate what you can have. For me, I obviously have a monthly budget for grocery shopping, but then I just break that down by week so I know how much groceries I can buy each week. Step 2 in our plan here is to look at what you already have. Before I even start to write anything down on paper, I look through my pantry, my fridge, and my freezer to see what I have that's gonna go bad, something that's just been sitting for a long time, anything that I can use so I can minimize how much I'm actually spending each week when I'm grocery shopping. And so that is the second step, to get an idea of what's already on hand, and that can help you plan, 2 or 3 meals by just doing that alone. The next step I have for you is going on to the store's website to see what is on sale that week. That can be another great way to come up with meal ideas that will help you on a budget. And for me, sometimes I just need to see something to have my mind be like, ooh, that looks good, I could do something with that. So checking out your grocery store's sales for that week can be a great way to get some ideas. Once I looked for meal ideas in my own home and then also at the store, then of course I will turn to Pinterest for either recipes or even just more inspiration on what I could have if there's a couple of days that I still need to fill. Pinterest is always going to be a go-to. Then once I have an idea of the meals that I want to plan, I'll go ahead and just write it down in my calendar. And I actually do this on Notion, but if you prefer to do a physical calendar, you can absolutely do that if you wanted to put it in your planner, which I actually end up doing after I've meal planned. I will transfer my Notion meal planning into my actual planner because I'm looking at that daily, so I know what meals are coming up. So once you have your meals in your calendar, then what I do is I pull up the recipe and I just transfer whatever is in the recipe onto my to-do list in my phone, so that way I can easily take it with me to the store. It's nice to have a list on paper, but let's be honest, 1, I don't want to carry a lot of stuff into the grocery store, and 2, I'm probably going to forget it somewhere. So just to be safe, I always have my phone with me, so if I have it in my phone, then I know I'm going to have the list when I need it. Once I have the ingredients on my list, what I like to do then is I like to add it to the shopping carts online. So if I pull up the app for Target, I'll add in the items that I'm gonna buy, and that helps me in multiple ways. So first of all, it helps me to see what my total is gonna be, so that way when I go grocery shopping, I'm not surprised by anything. And 2, it can help me check to see if there's a better price at a different store. I tend to only like to grocery shop at 2 stores per week because I think there is some value in finding a better deal in different places, but I also can't go to 12 different stores. That would be too much. I can't do that. I like to compare between 2 different stores, and I try to make sure they're in the same area so that way I don't have to drive one side of town to the other. So once I have an idea of what stores that I'm going to be shopping at, then I'll go back onto my grocery list and I'll just write which stores I'm getting the different items from, so that way I can keep track of what I need to buy where. Now, obviously, over time, you kind of realize, okay, I'm always going to get blank from wherever. And so that makes it easy. But as you start off, or as you get ingredients that you don't normally get, it's helpful to just indicate which store you're going to be buying it at, so that way you make sure you get the best price. So for the next step, this is step number 8. Once you have your meals planned for the week, find a good place to keep a running list of meal ideas. I think that is one of the hardest things, is just, well, what do I cook? Like, what sounds good? I don't know. There's nothing, nothing sounds good. And if you have a list of meals that you really enjoy already on hand, then it makes meal planning so much easier. You will save yourself so much time by just having something you can quickly look at to get a bunch of ideas. So for me, I have a big list on my Notion, and you can check that out in my Notion tour. And I just love it as a quick reference guide of, okay, what should we have? You can kind of get a feel for what you've already had and what you haven't had in a while, but it just makes it so much easier to have something that can jog your memory. Also, once you have written things down, write down the recipe or make sure it's accessible, because sometimes for me, I feel like taking 5 steps to go onto Pinterest and then go onto the website and then scroll down to the recipe, the jump to recipe button, yeah, that's our best friend. But it's so inconvenient, like it just takes a lot of time, and then if you're anyways, so it is just, it's a bit of a hassle. I personally love to watch a TV show while I am cooking, just so I can enjoy the process a little more. And so if I'm watching something on my laptop, I don't like to be flicking back between the recipe and the show. And so if you write down the actual recipe, it just makes it a lot easier to find it later. And the other benefit to this is, while I'm cooking, I oftentimes think, oh, I would like to change this the next time I make it. Well, then I forget because I don't write it down anywhere. So to help you out in the long run, write down the notes that you have while you're cooking, so that way in the future you can just make that recipe a little bit better. Now, for my final tip for meal planning is to put reminders in your phone of when you need to prep or thaw your food, because let me tell you, when you get to the end of the day and you realize that your meat should have been thawing on the counter way sooner or in the fridge the night before, it throws all of your dinner plans out the window, and nobody likes a wrench in their plans like that. So for me, I always try to go in and leave a little reminder, prep the crock pot in the morning before work, or a reminder on my phone at night to put the meat from the freezer into the fridge so it can thaw overnight. That's just a part of meal planning. It's preparing ahead of time for what you're going to be making, and I think it just helps you to feel more on top of it. It gives you a game plan, and then you are already mentally prepped. Okay, this is what I'm making for dinner tonight, so you don't even have to think, what am I going to be making for dinner? Now my bonus tip, because I have a bonus tip for you. And let me tell you, this will change the way you meal plan, because we all know that it is so tedious to make a new plan every single week of what you're going to cook. Well, my suggestion for you is to create a meal plan for the month that you use for a season. So I would take it by just the normal season. So in summer, if you have a month of meals already planned and then you just repeat that each month, you're gonna be rotating through your food far enough away that you don't get bored of the same food. But sometimes you'll buy a big thing of something random, like a specific kind of cheese, because I love cheese. So I'll buy a specific kind of cheese for a recipe and I'll only use half of the block of cheese that I got. So then if I just freeze it, then I can use it next month in the recipe. So if I'm working in that cyclical way of each month is the same meal plan, copy and paste, then you don't have to meal plan anymore, ever. You just repeat it. And then you do that every season, and you can simply repeat that every single year. Now, with that, I will say, leave some blanks for nights that you want to try something new, and maybe a couple leftover nights in there. So you don't have to have 30 days of new meals, but maybe you have like 5 days a week, that the same meals. And you can obviously rearrange things as you want. So you don't have to necessarily have week 2 be the exact same order, but it just makes it so much easier so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. But then also by changing it seasonally, you're able to get whatever is in season. You can get the fruits and the vegetables for that season. My husband hates eating soups in the middle of summer because it's 100 million degrees out here in San Antonio. So we're just not gonna do that. But in the winter, I love a good soup. I love all the soups. And so I go crazy on my soup game in the fall and the winter. And so by having it seasonally cycling as well as monthly cycling, you get through food a lot faster. But then if you're somebody who just doesn't have the time to sit down and plan, but you know that your meal planning goes better when you do plan, this is for you. This is a fail-safe way for you to meal plan, have everything that you need, and then what you could even do is you could literally have a list of the ingredients that you need at the end of each week for that set meal plan and pop it into your phone. How much easier can it get than that? It doesn't get easier. And then I would take that list and then I would go food shop in your pantry and then your fridge and then go to the grocery store after that. So you're welcome. I have just planned an entire year of meals for you that you can use every year for the rest of your life if you wanted to. Obviously, I'm sure you'll change things out over time, and that's the great thing about meal planning is it is very flexible, but having a system in place makes it so much easier. It takes away a lot of the resistance that we have to meal planning and makes you feel much more in control of what you're eating and help you stick to a budget. My biggest hope for you is that this video helped you to see that meal planning may not be as daunting as you originally thought. Hopefully my step-by-step process will help you to be better at meal planning. It'll help you be more excited about cooking food in your own homes. Let me tell you, I am such an advocate for home-cooked meals. They always taste better than restaurants, pretty much 90% of the time. What I make at home is usually better than at a store. So I would highly recommend trying out my meal planning system and see if it works for you. And let me know in the comments below if you have any meal planning tips or if you use this and it worked for you. I would love to hear that of planning or organizing your life. Then subscribe down below to get videos each week. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.